Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today, and welcome. And thank you for sharing so openly about your experience to our Shangri Bala family, and so that we can
Yes,
get an
it's my pleasure.
understanding. Yes.
Mm,
I knew that I wanted to really do this interview with you because I was so happy with your results and what happened. And I think this is such a great example of how our program works and what it does for people. And across the board, people all report similar things. But yours is just such a unique and beautiful story to me. And so thank you so much for sharing. It really is appreciated.
yes, yeah, it's my pleasure.
So we'll start off just by you introducing yourself and telling us who you are and your background as a therapist, and also your experience with non-duality. And then just from there, what brought you to Shangri Bala?
Okay, well, you see, now I don't really know who I am anymore. Before I would have had a long introduction, and now it's yeah, I think that's just changed a little bit. So, well, I'm Karen. I live in Mauritius, an island in the Indian Ocean, where I've been living since nearly 40 years. I was born in England, grew up in Germany, and since around 10 years, I've been working as a life coach and a psychological consultant, and also a mindfulness teacher, which I did 25 years ago or 30 years ago already, on and off. So I've been on this journey of, I don't want, it's not non-duality, but let's say a spiritual journey for a long time, without considering myself to be one of these seekers that are striving to achieve the awakening. I never really had that. I don't know why. It was just never. It didn't. It didn't resonate. It wasn't. It didn't take a huge importance in my life. So it was more about improving, I think, my personality, bringing out the strengths, and just trying to become a better person, and perhaps, getting rid of the pain, dealing with uh, certain reactions that you have, and just wanting to diminish that. So that's the path I took, actually. And obviously, through my coachings, I got to, you slip into a bit of a role where you take on a certain role, obviously, which teaches you a lot in the end, because you just remain much calmer. You just take more time to listen, and so I really developed that very much, or the mindfulness whilst coaching. And I realized that I came more and more into these states of, where the answers were just flowing through, and whatever I was facing in my sessions, because we face a lot of pain, obviously, and some very dramatic things, lots of abuse, and I just felt like this connection that I had experienced 30 years back, that it was really deep when I'm coaching, actually. And this is probably why I then got into this first, how shall I say, getting into this, hearing about psychedelics. So and what it can do, because I got deeper and deeper into consciousness, and I realized that's really my subject. It's consciousness. So it's not the awakening, it's really the consciousness, being connected, and what is consciousness, and just feeling it more and more. And that's how I came across, I think, a video. I think it was with Joe Rogan or something, who said you can't really touch the consciousness without psychedelics. So that was the first time I really heard about it, and I started reading a little bit about it. And as you know, as the group had a big laugh. I'd never in my life taken drugs, any kind of drugs.
Nothing at all. They won't have any history at all.
No, no, no. I did smoke a joint when I was, but without feeling anything when I was, when I was, I don't know, 16 or something like that. But it's never, drugs has never been part of my life. So, so then I had a big argument with one of my children, which never happens actually. So I was just pushed towards you. And one argument added to another, and I was just so I just needed to get out. And I started to look. I wanted to go somewhere, and I was thinking of going to India or to Sri Lanka and to anyway. I didn't find what I was looking for because I didn't know what I was looking for actually. And then I came across something in Portugal because my best friend said, go to Europe. And I said, Europe, it's not that spiritual consciousness I'm looking for. I don't think it's not their world. And she said, just look. So I looked and I found a retreat in Portugal. So I signed up and I was meant to go and then they said they didn't have a single room. And I just wanted to have a single room because I wanted to have a bathroom, which is very funny now because the story. So in the end, I cancelled it and I said, no, I don't want to share. You don't never know with whom you want to end up. And I just thought, no, I don't want to do that. And then I came across your retreat, and then I just saw something with a medicine, and I thought, yeah, that sounds great, medicine, that's good. Not realizing really what it was, and that's when I booked your retreat. And the funny thing is, as you know, that I forgot to ask you. I didn't forget to ask if I could have a single room, and you said you can have a tent, but I forgot to ask about the bathroom, so I didn't have a bathroom in the end. So it's
So
really, it was
funny when
a
you
really,
arrived.
yes, it was really a sign, and I just had to end up there where I ended up at your place. Yeah, so that's a bit about me and how I found your place.
Yeah, really beautiful. It was really guided. I think it was really meant for you to
Yes,
be there at that time
yes,
because you were,
yeah,
it was so outside of your comfort zone, and it was clear when you arrived. There was a very openness and willingness, but it was outside of your comfort zone initially. And
yes,
I think even during our call, when we spoke initially before you came, I thought
yes,
usually we are mindful of people that have never taken any psychedelic substances before to take part in the retreats because it is quite a big one to go for, one of the most powerful
mm,
ones in the world. But I think when I spoke to you and I understood your background and where you were on your own journey, I felt reassured that it was right, for you to do it.
yes,
And
yes,
I've also realized over time that even people that are psychedelic naive, that have never done anything before, they actually do quite well at our retreats because we build it up with the context and the understanding. But also,
mm,
many times when people have other psychedelic experiences, they tend to have a lot of negative experiences from other events that they do. And of course, they are all beneficial. We're not saying that they are bad. But when they come to the medicine, they come with a lot of fear. Well, you didn't have any of that fear because you had no
no,
understanding.
no, and I had no expectations.
Yes.
So, and that's beautiful as well. When you have absolutely no expectations, you don't know what to expect, and you just, allow yourself to fall into it.
Yeah. And I think from your intention, it was clear that you said a little bit in your intention that you felt a sense of, was it sadness, undertone of sadness, I remember, that you wanted to work on. Was that correct?
It wasn't. Yes, but I think that was really connected to that argument that I had with the girls, which I later understood that argument only took place for me to travel. Otherwise, I would never have left.
I've done it. Yes.
And so that sadness was really connected to that event.
Yes.
But obviously, when you go through that kind of event, it brings up all the sadness of your life, of the past. So I think it was a clearing. I think when I was in the group, what I mentioned and what I was really most excited about was really not teaching, not being the teacher,
Yes.
and being carried by a group or by you, or just listening, just not having to teach, not being the one that knows everything, and just, not knowing anything and just leaning back. And that was really beautiful for me, especially during the second session that we had. Which proved to be absolutely right, that I was just carried by the group and by yourself and Maria. So it was,
Yeah, really beautiful.
yeah. And there was obviously sadness from childhood, but we all have that. But in general, I'm not a sad person. So it's not a subject in my life, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to hear that sometimes it is the suffering that brings us to the work, and it brings us closer. We don't always see it when we are in it, but like for you, that there was this argument or something that has never happened before, and it brings discomfort. But it's that very discomfort is the thing that brings us closer to the self, closer to the self. I think that is such a beautiful example of how that brought you closer. And it's not always that we can imagine it to be a pleasant event, but there is an event that brings us closer to the self.
Yes.
To realizing the self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's also a proof of the experience that I had in the last experience that I had of about letting go, and that's something I would probably now understand much faster than before, and now I do understand it much more, so better than before. So that when something happens and it's out of my comfort zone, or it's inhabitual, or it's an argument, or whatever it may be, something negative, I don't see it as something negative anymore. It's because I really surrendered, and I just know this is now God, or whatever you want to call it, is just at work. And I'm just supposed to follow in line. Just see what comes out of it.
Just be the loving awareness of the experience as opposed to the doer or the partaker of the experience. Yeah, really beautiful.
Yes.
So your first experience was Kambo. How did you find that?
I don't know. I didn't. But when we were going in the bus, when we were in the shuttle, when we were coming to you, I had Paul next to me who was talking about it. And it was really, really scary, because he said that's really the worst part. So that's where I did have an expectation, actually, that it was going to be terrible, which it wasn't. I mean, it was very mild symptoms. I cannot say really that it had any effect, mentally. I didn't really have any effect, and physically, I don't know. Because I didn't have any pains. I wasn't. There's nothing that was to be healed.
Yes.
So I could really not say a lot about Kambo. But what I can say is that I felt very safe. Being burnt and stuff like that. But I felt very safe. Yeah, that was nice.
Even being a novice at it all, yes, you were so brave and completely open into really receptive. You were just so willing to experience, and it was really, really beautiful. And I think sometimes also here, Kambo can be a little bit overshadowed by the main experience when we have Bufo, and it is so powerful. But of course, it's not really always powerful in terms of for each person how Kambo works, but it does add something already. I think it's part of that preparation process for most people, also in the body as in the mind. But I think because you already came and you're already so centered in your person that you already brought this beautiful energy. But it was really lovely to serve you, Kambo, as well.
Yes.
And it's nice to see.
Yes, and probably because I don't know, because I do have a very, very healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
So that probably there was perhaps not that much to get rid of in my body. Perhaps.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, one of the reasons that we like working with Kambo before is because of the peptide dermaceptin B2 that creates this permeability between the blood-brain barrier. And so we get a better uptake of 5-MeO. So it also serves a purpose for that as a preparation.
Yes. Yes.
So then came the first experience. How was that for you, the low dose?
The low dose, I was blown away. I mean, I was absolutely blown away, and it was. I remember my first thought was like, "Wow, this is what it's like to take drugs." You know, when you sometimes hear people, I just never ever experienced something like it. So it was really this music, and there's this smell, and you won't believe it, but I found the smell that I experienced during the three um, series that we did. I found it in my garden.
And what is it?
It's I don't know what it's called actually. I should have found out. It's this plant that attracts insects.
Oh, wow.
It's if you plant it next to vegetables or when you want to attract bees and stuff, and
Yes.
it looks like it's white. It's a bush. I'm going to find out the name.
Oh,
And
no
I
problem.
walked past it every morning, and I thought, this smell. This is by experience. And I used to smell it every day, and every day I thought it smells like heaven.
Ah, really
But
beautiful.
but now it was like so that answers the questions. The question it felt like heaven. The
Oh,
first low dose.
yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, and I
yeah.
think it was really lovely for you right from the beginning. And it was clear that you were quite sensitive to the medicine at that point because you had this beautiful experience as well, which was really, really lovely. So they came the next day and we gave you
Yes,
another main dose. So this was
yes,
a higher dose in terms of,
yes.
I think it was about 9 milligram for you, was it?
Six perhaps.
6, yeah, because you were quite sensitive, so we adjusted
Can't
accordingly.
remember. Yeah, yeah. I don't really remember. I don't really remember. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
it
it was
was
about 6 to 9, something like that. But I remember it wasn't like a
okay.
very high dose at that point. But
Okay. Yes.
and how was that experience?
Well, that experience was exactly what I had asked for. Actually, I don't know if you remember, but when you spoke about this half circle, and you just explained that you go through different stages, and then there's this black zone,
Yes.
this pain area, and I said it jokingly but seriously at the same time. I want to go there. That's where I want to go because I've experienced bliss through mindfulness and stuff like that. So, but I wanted to go into this dark area, and well, and that's where I ended up. So, and this is really going to accompany me a lifetime because, again, it was the way it happened was like, you just a blackout. And then I remember just this bolting, this sitting up in so much pain inside, not physical pain, but so much mental pain. And I just remember sobbing and sobbing and crying and just thinking, this is so much pain. And it was in my chest. And it was, and this voice was saying, go deeper, go deeper. You can bring out more. You can bring up more. So I cannot say up until today to what it was connected. So there was absolutely no souvenir. It was not, connected to an event or to an abuse or to a childhood trauma or whatever. Nothing at all. It was simply pain as a package in my body just releasing. And the beauty was you holding me, being next to me suddenly, and Maria on the other side, and then the whole group in the background that I could just feel so strongly. I just could feel their support, and this was yeah, it was so painful and it was so beautiful at the same time. And I don't know if you remember, I asked you for a bucket because I really had the feeling I wanted to throw out everything that was inside, and just to get it out, which then didn't work, but it was so physical. It was really physical. Yes, and then, as I say, then not being alone, Paul coming up and staying with me, and then walking out after later on. So that was, yeah, that was very. very beautiful, and I could share you know, very difficult story in my life with him afterwards, or straight afterwards. And that, yeah, so it was really nice. It
Beautiful.
was not nice, but it was really beautiful because I have since then, I have no pain anymore.
Beautiful. Yes. And it is so
It's only
intense.
in thoughts, but there's no physical pain anymore.
Yes, of course, because here we the pain has peaked within his experience and completely peaked,
Yes.
whatever that was. Even the beauty, I think, sometimes of the medicine is as well that we don't need to know exactly what it is, where it comes from, but just that there is a release of it. So no matter where
Yes.
it comes from, for some people it feels ancestral, for some people it feels more global, it feels more than themselves. It feels bigger, larger than themselves. And I think it is just that release that happens. And it was really beautiful for you as well. And I think it's also beautiful sometimes that you say people do feel they need a bucket, and there might be some energetic purging. Sometimes some little bit of physical, but yeah, I think for you it was very energetic. You were releasing and releasing. How important was the group for you? Because many people prefer to have it in a group, others prefer to have it one to one, because they might be a little bit nervous. How important was the group support for you?
For this one, it was immensely important. Immensely important. Obviously you were there, but it was also always also this, this background, because everybody's sitting there, and I knew what was happening. Everybody was meditating or just being, just carrying the way I did it with others.
Yeah.
So just opening up space. For this one, it was immensely important.
Yes, yes.
Although I did realize, and that's why the second time I asked to go alone, I did realize that when the gamma, when it gets weaker, you do get conscious very fast.
Yes.
So I do remember then, trying to clean up a little bit, or trying to just, you just become self-conscious that you are in a group and there are people. So perhaps I would have gone deeper. I don't know. It was just because it is so short. There's a very
Yes.
short time where things can happen. So yeah, it was immensely important. And at the same time, I then knew the next time, in order to have a deeper experience, I would wanted to go alone. So it was,
Yes.
yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
beautiful. And so then came the next day, the next experience for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
where
Yes.
I think there was quite a few people that on the first day they might do the group, and the second day they do private, and so where they can just have the space for themselves. And sometimes people feel this is important, but I think for you it ended up being a feminine circle, because it was for you that I served, and then Maria came in. I think after you, or was it before you?
That's after me.
After you. So
Yes.
first it was just you,
Yes.
and then after you, Maria came in, but you sort of stayed for her ceremony as well because she wanted you in it. But okay, so your
Maria
last.
was there for my ceremony.
Oh,
She
she
was
was
there
there.
for my ceremony.
Okay.
Yeah, we said we'd assist each other, actually. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And so there was no men; it was only a female circle, so it was only us. And so, how was that? How was that experience for you? So now we went up, I think, even more in dosage. So we went a bit higher.
So that experience was, I know I use the same words, but it was, having compared, having seen so many others in the group, having seen their experiences, glowing eyes and with laughing, or moving a lot, or energy going through them, lots of movement. I had the feeling, for me, it was very calm, but there was just so much depth. But a depth I had never expected. I didn't expect anything, but there was so much peace. I mean, I when I came out, when I came back into the room, I just remember the word knowing that kept coming up, and the word neutral.
That's right. Yes, I remember.
And there was nothing spectacular. I always say this. There was nothing. Wow. It was so different. It was so calm. It was emptiness. It was empty. It wasn't full. There were no colors. There was just white, or a cream color. There was no, I don't know, it was just it was peaceful.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's
And
really
when I
beautiful.
woke up, yes, and when I woke up, I think what really struck me was that my arms, I was, lying like this, as if I was on the cross.
That's right.
And I've never, ever found myself in a position like this. So it was actually the opposite what had happened the day before, jolting up. And I remember looking at my hands and just feeling like this, that I had entirely surrendered to something. And I just remember taking my hands and folding them over my heart. So and that's when I felt the peace coming, and that's when I felt the tears just, rolling, but softly. There was no violence, there was no excitement. There was just neutrality.
Yes. Yes.
And that was it. So it was so deep, but it appeared, the first view, it appeared to be so much less deep than what others had experienced
Yes.
in terms of movement and excitement, and wow, this is, for me, it was like just the opposite. So really, lots of
Yeah.
calmness and peace.
And that's so beautiful because ultimately we are seeking this blowout experience or meeting God, or we are seeking these experiences. But the reality is that we are just a calm, loving awareness of our experience. And it isn't as eventful as we sometimes think it is. And I think even in meditation, sometimes people want to go deeper into this different parts of themselves, but it is just there. It's always there, the undertone of our existence. It's just the expansive presence that never ends. It just, the expanse of this presence is just always so phenomenally large, like you explain as well. And I think it's so beautiful that you go beyond that. And I think, as you know from the diagram, which I will share here in this video as well, so people can understand, there is different levels where you can go within it, and you can go to the first part of it, which was what we call the absolute or the void. And this part, really, there is nothing there. It is nothing and everything at the same time. And it is almost the part of our being before the love and light appears. It is the endless space in which all possibilities can unfold. And this is, of course, as you know, not a scary place. It's not like that. It is just beautifully expansive. And once you've touched it, even so briefly, it is so profoundly anchored in our being. And it's a recognition of this as ourselves. Sometimes more than we are not acquiring any new knowledge. And I think you say so beautiful, nothing new has happened. It wasn't like this or like that. And I think it is different for each person. And within this diagram, for some people, they have to go into this natural child state where they can experience the love and the light and the laughter and all the natural attributes of the natural child. But for some, where there is a deeper knowledge, and I think this is the case for you, you already had a deeper knowledge, a deeper understanding. There was already a level of release. You were able to go into this part, and it was really, really beautiful.
It brought a lot of presence to my life. I mean, and I thought I obviously I had a lot of presence in my life, but it's a different kind of presence now. And there's the search, whatever, any kind of search has just ended. So, for example, when you, yes, I saw on your website, you were talking about, or you asked a question, about non-duality, and Rupert Spear and this and that, and I just realized I don't want to know it anymore. It just doesn't seem important anymore. It's as if my being is looking for something that's of no importance because it's already there. I can't put it into words really. It's just this has gone. The only thing for me today that is really important is just living.
Yes.
Living. And it sounds amazing because I've changed so many things, and I realized it has changed me profoundly. I dress differently, not entirely differently, but I dress differently. I do different things. I want to work less. I mean, this is crazy. It's like I want to live more and be more in the garden and be more with my children and be more with my it's there's many subtle changes that have taken place, and it's ongoing. It's
Yes.
ongoing. But there's really is I can't say that I don't get worked up anymore.
Yes.
I can not for a long time, because presence sets in immediately. And so, it's like, okay, if a bomb goes up, well, then,
We'll be okay with
doesn't
this
really,
also.
doesn't really matter, in a certain sense.
Yes.
But without losing touch, which sometimes I don't like with non-duality teachings, is that it tries to bring us out of where we are. And I have the feeling I'm in this reality, even if non-duality doesn't call it the reality. But for me, there is a reality, but it's just this knowing that you're like an avatar in a game, and you want to appreciate this game as
Yes.
an avatar, even if it's like you play Monopoly. It's a game, but you get worked up when you can't buy the houses you want to buy, or
Yes,
so
for
it's a
sure.
little bit like that. So really diving into this life, but more as a game. So there's less seriousness, and
Yes.
it's brought a lot of lightness into my life because, as I'd mentioned, during the retreat, these COVID years, they took all my lightness away because there was so much suffering, not having taken the shot and being excluded everywhere, and this fear of, perhaps never being able to travel anymore, or having to hide in the woods. That's ridiculous, but there were times when it really sounded like that, when
Yes, yes.
would have been obligatory. So yes, and now this lightness is back.
It's beautiful. And I think it's so nice that you point out that sometimes the changes are subtle, but they are profound. It's not always these huge explosions. For some people, it might be, but then there is these subtle connections that we have to presence. And this is what shines through in our daily lives. And it's subtle, but it's always there. And of course, life will still happen. Like you say, there's going to be events where we are going to be sad and upset. And
Yes,
this is all okay in the
yes.
human experience. Of course, we will have these, but we don't stay there. We
No.
it happens, but then after that, we go back to presence. We understand that the clouds appear on the backdrop of the sky, but that the sky is always there, and so we can drift within this existence as the human experience, and
Yes.
without too much attachment to any of it. I think that's whenever I speak to you, I think you do it so beautifully now that you have this present awareness of whatever is happening in the world. This is also okay. This is
Yes.
we trust and know
Yes.
that we will never understand it fully, but that we can also trust that we can expand into this, because if from a non-dual perspective it has already happened and we are just the observer of it, it is always there.
Mm.
So
Mm.
we are
Mm.
always just observing, and that loving awareness that is observing really is the default of who we are. So the more we can let go the less attachment there is, the less suffering there is, the less we
Yes.
identify as the doer, which I think you do so beautifully. I think there is
Which
this
is so very
fine dance.
difficult. Yes, it's just very quite difficult, I think, when you have children, for example. We had this conversation. There's a huge difference if you're just, living single, or you just have your life, and then, there's nothing after that. But as soon as you have children and grandchildren, that are not necessarily on your path,
Yes.
how do you use your knowledge without, say this is reality, doesn't exist, this is a dream. I mean, say that to a mother of a 3-month-old baby. It just doesn't make sense, because she's got her sleepless nights and then is feeding her baby. And so, yes, I think that's probably the biggest difficulty, is to walk through life with connections, with valid, deep connections, and to find a to find a detachment, but nevertheless being very involved.
Of course. And I think it's
Yes.
that beautiful presence that you bring to your family already. That presence can be felt, and it has a ripple effect on our families. And not that we are trying to convince anybody of non-duality, or that it means nothing. The human curriculum that we take as a human is very real, and we do not deny it, and we do not deny the suffering of the human experience for many. But as
Yes.
we become connected to the self more, we understand also that there is still an awareness of this experience. But of course, we each get there in our own time. And so, like you say as well, for you got to a level where some of the non-dual aspects and teachings of some of the teachers and so forth feels that it doesn't really work or resonate with you. This is completely normal, because
Absolutely.
we move
Yes.
we move beyond concepts, because we have to let go of these concepts eventually. It's like for some people need a little bit of a map to get them closer and closer, but then we reach a point where we must let go of this also completely,
Yes.
and then just
Yes.
into being that loving awareness that we always are. So I think
Yes. But we do need backup. I realize it's really nice to have a regular backup. To have one teacher, for example, that really resonates with you.
yes, of course.
Because some teachers of the well-known teachers, they do sometimes have a certain arrogance that can be very repelling, I think. Or some are just, it's just so difficult to understand. I mean, Rupert Spira, he's so soft, but you come to a point,
Very
for example,
intellectual.
where your mind can't go that deep, and that's a problem when you do, even for people who are very conscious, are very connected. And then you have people like Krishnamurti, who comes from a different angle, which is very highly intellectual as well. It's nearly physical. And I think it's important that we do, though, have everybody find somebody that can give them a backup, that speak a language that they can understand and that resonates with their lives, for example.
Yeah.
Perhaps for some it can be Muji, For me, for example, it's Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, beautiful.
And he's very different but it's all the same in the end. They're all saying the same thing, but just differently.
Yes.
So yeah, and I think it is good. Or Zen, I think, is very beautiful. All the Zen teachings,
Yes,
very
yes.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they lose the negative, compared to others, they always talk about the positive things.
Positive.
And
Yes.
yes, yeah. So it's So I think is important, even
Yes.
after leaving a retreat like that, is really continuously having a backup by listening to videos or podcasts or uh, whatever it may be.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
keep us going.
I think that's so important, because even before our retreats, when we send out the preparation integration guide, in there, it sort of prompts people to get ready for after your retreat. Some books that you are familiar with, some people, maybe teachers that you also find comfort in or wisdom in, or different modalities, it doesn't matter what it is. to have that backup, like you say, have it ready there to go into it. And, obviously, if it doesn't resonate, one of the reasons why we started the school Shangri Bala group is for community to share. So if people feel that some of the concepts are too much, that they can share in the group and learn from each other and from the beautiful talk we're doing today, because it is helpful for many that are not always used to the very scientific concepts or the philosophies that are sometimes very deep and very, I don't want to say high level, because there is no level to it. It is always available to all of us. There's no prerequisite or requirement to knowing the self. It's not like that. But for some people, they need to chip away at it little by little, and so for them there needs to be a different way or a different path to get there. And so it requires different
Yes.
modalities sometimes. But
Yes, it just sometimes I have the feeling it's made very much more complicated than it is. And sometimes there can be too much talk and make it too complicated, of instead of just teaching presence, actually. I
yes,
think once you enter presence, everything comes by itself.
it does. It does. And for some people to get to the point of presence, unfortunately, there needs to be a lot of talk and a lot of stuff. So, but for
Yes.
you, of course, you're at such a beautiful place. How would you say it's impacted your life more? And do you think your children feels it, and other people that do they feel something is different? Because you didn't tell them you were going beforehand, did you?
No, but I did tell them about it, and they were blown away, obviously. I don't think I don't think anybody perhaps noted a difference. It's much more me noticing a difference,
Beautiful.
because I just feel much more open, much lighter. That's what I was saying. It's this heaviness is gone.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really, and that's what I'm saying. Even the long explanations or making complicated, everything is just, let's see, it'll happen, and there's no problem. And but not, it's not about stuffing it down somewhere and keeping it, but it's really saying it's fine. Everything is going to be fine, and just bringing lightness into everything,
Beautiful.
into so yeah. And then I've just let go of lots of beliefs, so that's coming up as well, the beliefs that are there sometimes. And there's no fear. I had very, very little fear already, but now there's really very, very little fear.
Beautiful.
No fear.
And it's so
Yes,
beautiful
yeah.
because fear is the thing that stops us from living and an authentic life that is so full. So yeah,
Yes.
really beautiful.
Yes, yes. So I think, to answer your question, I can feel that I've changed. So perhaps, let's say, I get in touch more often with my friends, which they won't necessarily realize. But
Yes,
I
yes.
realize it, because it's the way I really want to. I want to go there, so I can turn things nice. So like, oh, I have to go there. And I say, why do you have to? You don't have to. And then you see, I want to go there. Yes, I want to go there. So it's just realizing that we get into these concepts of, oh, I have to do that, and oh, it's not. Instead of, where does that come from? What's bad about it?
Yes, yes.
And just realizing that these is habits of functioning, of turning something into something negative, when it's something beautiful.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that happens a lot, but these are things I can see that other people can't see.
Yeah, really beautiful. And it's about taking away, not adding more to it. But like you say, keep subtracting, keep taking away the concepts, just taking
Absolutely.
away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say this to my clients. I've always said that when they say, oh, I've got lots of work, I say, there's no work to do. We have to let go of stuff. It's not
Yes, yes.
adding things, it's really letting go. It's like this onion. We want to let go and just be empty in the end.
Of
And
course.
so that there's just brightness and excitement and curiosity. How can we walk through life now?
Yes, of
And
course.
that makes life so much nicer.
You're really beautiful. And I
Yes,
think I am
yes.
sure this is really improving the way that you work as well, in terms of your own presence and how you feel connected to that. Albeit subtle, it'll just be so phenomenally beneficial to anybody that wishes to work with you. So yeah, really amazing.
Yeah. It's less serious now. I really take myself less serious now.
Yeah, beautiful.
I have the feeling I don't have this feeling that I know more than anybody else.
Beautiful.
I've just experienced it now, but it's not. There's no. That's why I'm saying I've pulled out a little bit. Perhaps it'll come back, but it's like I don't want to take on this role of knowing more than other people
Yes, yes.
anymore.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more for sharing now.
Yes.
It's more for yeah, I still have to sort that one out.
I understand.
Yeah.
This is exactly where I think, we are as well in terms of our own experience of it, that we wanted to create this group or Shangri Bala perhaps as an ashram in the future, not where there's a central teacher, but there is a central
Mhm.
concept. And so that we can
Yes.
share together, but not as a teacher. But yes, of course, there will
Mhm.
be a facilitator, but rather a
Sure.
sharing and an opening into the concept of ourselves, rather than there being a central guru. And that's why we try and empower people to be their own guru, to take back that power of just simply being pure present and
Yes.
the loving
Yes.
awareness of our being.
Yes. And that's exactly the path I'm taking now is I don't want to get too much anymore into these down to earth subjects.
Yes.
So I'm much more interested now in just going onto this really the spiritual part. I did consider myself a spiritual coach before, but now it's really the kind of people I want to work with is definitely people that are really open to really open. I need to know that they're open to go into a space that sometimes cannot be explained by the mind.
Yes, beautiful. That's so
Yeah.
beautifully shared. And I will put a
Yeah.
link to your details below the video as well. So if anybody feels connected or called to work with you as well, they can make some contact with you
Yeah,
in the
sure.
group. They're
Sure.
very helpful. If
Sure.
you have time
Sure.
or if you feel that you can help them and of course that you want to work with them and that there'll be some benefit for each other, then of course I'm sure you will consider
Yes,
that.
yeah. But I do a call before anyway. I do a
Yes.
screening like you do. Yeah, if it's right for them. Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, thanks to you and thanks to Miguel for the beautiful journey. That's something I
Yeah.
really like to add here. I just felt so safe. I cannot imagine going anywhere else to do something than to go and see you. So professional. And that's what I really liked about you is this, what I was saying earlier on, you are in this reality. You haven't taken off into a sphere that people can't understand anymore. You
Yes.
are in this reality. You know the fears they may face or the excitement or the naivete or whatever it may be. That's what made me as a non-hippie made me feeling so safe because I could
Yeah.
just connect. Being here with one foot and with the one foot on the other side.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah,
So thank
you're
you very much.
welcome. Karen, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been really amazing. And I know
My
we'll stay in
pleasure.
touch always.
Yes.
And you're part of the Shangri
I'm
Bala
sure.
family anyway, so I'm sure it will we will hear from you again. Definitely.
Yes. I'd love to.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Take
Much
good care
love.
of yourself
And you.
and lots of love to everybody listening.
Thank you so much.